Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty, Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby. And you're watching Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. No other rock and roll. If you ain't watching, you ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
The Cannon Fire Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Cool Towel. The Cool Towel is an all-natural, instant cooling towel. No water, no refrigeration, no prep of any kind needed before use. Just take them out of the resealable pouch, shake it up, and it's good to go. It's that simple. When you're finished, put them back in the resealable pouch for use later on. You can find them online at cooltowel.com, the official sponsor of CFP.
We need one day, one win, one family, one day, one win, one family, one time. We got one time to do this. That's it. We got one time. Let's go. It's time to go to work. It's time to go to work. One time on three. 1, 2, 3. One time.
15 seconds left, ready to go. The snap. Winston looking. Fade route, far sideline. It is on ball. In touchdown, Tampa Bay. Touchdown, Chris Godwin. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Bucs lead. Fire them cannons.
The Cannon Fire Podcast is back today on YouTube and iTunes, and it is the biggest show of the year, or at least my favorite show of the year. It's the one that kicks off this season for us. Training camp is right under our nose, and I'm excited, man. I've got my Bucs jersey on. I'm drinking out of my Bucs glass. I'm ready to break down our season predictions, and I'm ultimately ready to get this season underway. Guys, I am so excited. And welcome back to the Cannon Fire Podcast, live here on YouTube, and if you're hearing this, an episode of the podcast on iTunes. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rhett, joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy, Mr. Bucs Football, Evan. Evan, how
are you? Good.
Glad, man. Glad to hear that you're doing good. And it's, as I brought up before, it's a really, really big show, and this is my favorite time of the year as a football fan, because there's really no other sports going on. You've got baseball, but other than that, there's not a lot of sports going on. The World hype or the World Cup hype has kind of died down. You know, we're getting past all that. The teams are getting ready for training camp. Everything's kind of coming together, and we're getting an idea of what things are going to look like. At least after training camp, we're going to get a general idea of what things are going to look like come the start of the season. I mean, I'm pumped, dude. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, now is definitely the time that fans start to get pretty excited, and rightfully so. They've waited a while for this, and can't wait to get the season started. I mean, this is it's going to be my busiest time. I don't really, in the off season, it's tough to do a lot of things, but now it's when it's going to start getting busy.
And as previously mentioned, this is the show that pretty much kicks off the year for us. It's always awesome doing the season predictions show. And before we get started with that as well, when do you think that mock draft is going to come along for fantasy? Or not the mock draft, but when do you think that fantasy draft is going to come into play?
I have I have an idea soon. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not 100% positive on a date, but it'll be coming soon.
Okay, so we've also got the fantasy draft, getting your fantasy teams back together. You've got that to look forward to. I mean, football is getting ready, and we're coming off of the heels of probably the longest offseason that I can remember. It feels like it's been a whole year since I've been able to watch Bucs football, and I remember on this podcast saying, let's cherish watching our team play the Saints because it's the last time we're going to get to watch our team play for a very long time. And here we are, just a little less than a month away from them being back on the field for the preseason in-game action. I'm pumped, man. Now, before we jump into the season predictions as well, something else that I guess we had noticed concerning the Buccaneers that I think we should address here because it's newer news to me. I hadn't seen anything about it until last night. But you guys have always known that Siege the Day has kind of become a Bucs motto, if you could say. That came out, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And it's been tossed around, it's been labeled on everything. But something new we've been seeing is, and from what I've noticed, directly mentioning the new defensive line, but we've been seeing Wreak Havoc plastered all over. I believe they changed it on their Twitter banner. It says hashtag Wreak Havoc. They had an ad campaign come out. Some commercials, now I've seen 30-second spots with Wreak Havoc at the end of them. What do you think? You like it better than Siege the Day?
Yeah, I do.
I'm glad it's time we finally get past it.
Siege the Day was kind of weird to me. I didn't really. I mean, I understood it, but it was just kind of confusing.
I remember when it had. I remember when it had come out. Everybody thought it was like a typo or it was an accident, because I remember people saying, "Do you know the definition of the word siege?" And I'm gonna look it up here, and it's kind of weird if you think about it, but it's football, so I guess you don't have to think about it. But I'm gonna pull up the definition here. But I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of strange, and then like when they said like the siege is coming or whatever, that was a little weird. But yeah, I mean, this is much better. I still just like fire to the cannons. I think they should just embrace that. But I do like this one much better than the last one.
All right, so I've got the definition of siege right here, and if you apply this to Siege the Day, you can kind of see where things can get a little awkward. There's 2 big definitions that stick out to me. One of them is an operation in which a police or other force surround a building and cut off supplies with the aim of forcing an armed person to surrender. Okay, it's a weird use, but I can kind of see it. But the second definition that pops up is a prolonged period of misfortune.
Oh boy.
And I mean, you can do with that what you will, but a prolonged period of misfortune is something that I don't really want to be associating with my team's motto anymore. So I'm kind of glad that we're past the Siege the Day phase, and let's wreak some havoc this upcoming season. But speaking of this upcoming season, this is the season predictions show, and what we're going to do right here, right now, is go week by week and break down every single Bucs game, why the Bucs are going to win, why the Bucs are going to lose, and what supports our decision. Now, we'd attempted to do this a couple of times before, and it just wasn't working for us. I believe one time we had Trevor with us, or what? That wasn't the season predictions show, was it?
No, yeah, that wasn't the season prediction show.
But regardless, this episode in particular is something that has been in the works for a good month, I'd say. We've been talking about doing it, and even tried to do it a couple of times, and it never really worked out for us, so we're going to see how far we can get this time. We're off to a good start.
Yeah, so far we are.
Alright, so let's get this bad boy underway. Week 1, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come out, and something that's a little bit different, that wasn't brought up and wasn't an issue the last time we tried to do this show, is the fact that the Buccaneers are going to be without franchise quarterback Jameis Winston for the first 3 weeks of the season. I'm not going to say that affects my choices here, but it kind of is. But you'll see where I'm going with this. And, I mean, hopefully everyone else does too. But week 1, the Bucs start on the road against division rivals, the New Orleans Saints. This is going to be a tough game. This is really going to be a tough game. You know, it's division rivals. You're going to have this issue when you face division rivals every year. And it's going to be something that you're going to have to get used to. But week 1 on the road against the New Orleans team that won the division last year, it's going to be a close game. I think we'll see flashes of what's going to hopefully lead us to a good Bucs season. I think we're going to see a lot of great things that get us excited for the rest of the year. But I don't think we're going to be ready for a division opponent this ready with a backup quarterback. So I got to say the Bucs are going to lose this one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you when you say it's a tough game. I mean, it would be a tough game even with Jameis Winston. The Saints, they made the playoffs for a reason, and really, I mean, they should have went to the NFC Championship game. Had it not been for a crazy play at the last second of the divisional game, they would have gone to the NFC Championship game. So, I mean, yeah, I think this is a Super Bowl contender. Their roster's stacked. They will not be with Mark Ingram, their starting running back, well, one of their starting running backs, to start the season. He's suspended as well as James Winston. But then, I mean, even though you lose him, you got Alvin Kamara, who is the reigning, defending, he's the offensive rookie of the year. And then on the other side, you have the defensive rookie of the year, Marshawn Lattimore. So then they got other guys. They got Cameron Jordan, Sheldon Rankin. So, I mean, there's talent on the defense as well. And just like you said, I mean, with Winston, it would be tough. But, I mean, without, it'll be even harder. I originally had this game as a win. I felt like, the players are going to be motivated. I still think they are going to be motivated to come out there and just try to prove people wrong, because not many people are giving them a shot at all these first three games. Especially that one New Orleans site that when the schedule came out, the headline was, I forget exactly what it was.
I think it was Saints get easy win at home.
Yeah, it was like
something along those lines.
Saints schedule releases starts with easy W over Tampa Bay or something like that. Yeah, and I remember Quan Alexander shared it like on Twitter or whatever, and he had a few laughs about it. So I think they are going to be motivated, but at the end of the day, I am changing my prediction, and I do believe that the Buccaneers are going to lose this game. I don't think that they're going to be able to outmatch the Saints, especially because I think the defense and running game is going to be very important to win this game. But I think the problem with those two things are things that I think need time to develop. I think that they need the running game. Ronald Jones is a rookie. Peyton Barber is inexperienced. And the defense, there's so many new pieces, that defense. I mean, you're going to have 3 new starters along the defensive line, most likely. Plus, you're going to have a new starting cornerback as well, and maybe a new nickel cornerback. So, I mean, that's at least 5 new starters on the defense. So, I mean, I definitely think it's going to take a few games for them to get adjusted, and for Rojo to settle in with the run game. And I just don't think Fitzpatrick is going to. I mean, I think the Buccaneers, like you said, I believe it's going to be a close game. This isn't going to be a blowout. This isn't going to be like was in New Orleans last year. But I just don't think that the Buccaneers are going to be able to pull it out. One last note I do want to add, though, with the New Orleans, is the one thing the Bucs have riding for them here is New Orleans typically does not start off hot. They lost to the Vikings week 1 last year, then they lost to the Patriots week 2. And then, 2015, I remember Jameis Winston's first career win actually came against the Saints in the Superdome week 2 after that debacle versus Tennessee. The Buccaneers went into the Superdome where they're playing this game and ended up beating the Saints. So that's really the only thing that they have going for them is typically the Saints. Every year they typically do not start off that hot, but I feel like with Jameis Winston out, it'll just be too much to overcome.
Now, something I am looking forward to this game, you had brought up that brand new defense, and something that I'm really looking forward to seeing is how this new defensive front, you've got cyclable talent, but I really want to see how these guys are able to stop the run. Because without Mark Ingram there, it's going to be different for New Orleans. They're not going to have as many running back options as they did before with both Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. But you can't deny that Alvin Kamara is a talented back. And I'm going to go on record here and say that if they can find a way to shut down Alvin Kamara by himself, not let him produce the way that he does. Now, he is a receiving back, as we've seen, but if he cannot get anything going on the ground, I'm going to go on record and say that if they can do that, then they can stop Devontae Freeman week 2 against the Falcons. Now, going back to week 1, both you and I have the Bucs losing that, so we are 0-1. Both of us headed into week 2 against Philly, actually, not Atlanta. I don't know why I was thinking Atlanta for some reason. I'm really used to a lot of division games opening the season, so that is my bad. I goofed on that one. But it's really going to be a test, when you talk about that same run defense, that second week having to stop a guy like Le'Veon Bell, as we did see it is going to be, or it's looking like it's going to be his last season as a Steeler, but you can bet this guy's going to play his ass off when he comes to Tampa. Jesus, what is wrong with me?
That is
Philly.
Philly. Yep, Philly. That's what I was trying to say it, but I didn't want to interrupt you right away.
No, dude, I don't know what it is. I look down at my sheet and I see Philly and Pittsburgh, and normally I think that Philly and Pittsburgh are in the same state, so I kind of confuse the two. So when I'm thinking Philly in my head, black and yellow popped up. So forgive me for that one, but okay. Let me rephrase what I was saying all the way from the beginning. If they can stop the ground game against New Orleans, they can stop the ground game against Philadelphia and Tampa. That's what I'm trying to say. 0-1, headed into week 2, playing the Super Bowl champs at home. Evan, I'm going to toss it to you, man, because I shouldn't talk that much more.
Well, I mean, this one, you brought up a good point to where, if they can slow down the Saints running attack, they shouldn't really have a problem with the Eagles running attack. The Eagles have Jay Ajayi, who obviously he's good, but I don't think he's better than Alvin Kamara. Kamara, however you want to say it. I'm not actually sure what the official thing is. A lot of people say it differently, but anyways, the only thing that the Eagles do have better, which could give the Bucs trouble, is the Eagles have a way better offensive line than the Saints do. The Eagles have a top 3 offensive line in football. Saints are probably top 10, top 15. So I mean that's a big difference. Those holes are going to be huge for Jay Ajayi to run through. Unless this Buccaneers revamped defensive line can block those holes. And I think this is a game where it's Gerald McCoy on the inside. It's time to step up and win this one. I mean, I don't think this game relies on who's playing at quarterback. Is it going to be Carson Wentz or is it going to be Nick Foles? Either way, the Buccaneers could be in trouble because I think Nick Foles with Doug Peterson's system, Nick Foles is still going to be a good quarterback. But I mean, I think we can all agree Carson Wentz gives the Eagles the better chance to win. So I mean, I think if Nick Foles is playing, the Eagles' chances to win go down a bit. But I still think that I'm going to guess that Carson Wentz plays. I don't know if he plays week 1, but I think he'd play week 2. It sounds like he's making good progress. And I'm going to say that the Buccaneers lose this game as well. It's going to be a close game. I think it's not as going to be, the Eagles aren't going to score 30-plus points because if you remember correctly from last year, the Bucs are a different defense in Raymond James Stadium. The Bucs have had some success against some pretty good offenses, even last year when they came to Raymond James Stadium. The Falcons' offense, they limited them to 24 points. The Saints' offense, they limited them to 24 points. One touchdown was off of a kickoff return. The Lions, I believe 24 points as well. But the other thing that the Eagles have that the Saints don't is the Eagles have an elite defense. I think a top 3 or 2 defense in the NFL. So that's something that's gonna, it's gonna hurt with Fitzpatrick, but you got to run the ball, And this is, I was saying this a little earlier to somebody. This game, I think, out of the first 5-6 games, this game is going to be the first one to determine how much better this team's gotten in the trenches. Because, I mean, you could say all around, offensive line, defensive line, the Eagles are the best combo of offensive line, defensive line. They have the best trench play in the NFL.
It'll definitely be the strongest test in the first half of the season in the trenches. I like where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, and, we're going to see. We are going to see, I don't expect the Bucs are going to struggle a bit, because that's how good Philly is. But I just want to see the Bucs hold their own against some pretty darn good pass protectors, run blockers, and pass rushers. I mean, on that defensive line, they got Fletcher Cox, they got Brandon Graham, they have Derek Barnett, they have Chris Long, they have Timmy Jernigan, but Timmy Jernigan actually is not expected to play because he has a injury and he needed surgery. One thing I'm just going to point out, two quick notes, is one, that the Eagles' weakness is the secondary. So, I mean, yeah, they have Malcolm Jenkins back there who's a Pro Bowl safety. But, I mean, other than that, their other safety is pretty inconsistent. I believe their starter is going to be Rodney McLeod. And, I mean, he's good sometimes. Other times he's not that good. Ronald Darby, who is going to be one of the starting cornerbacks, I think is not that good. I think Jalen Mills is good. They're going to be one of their corners, and their other corner, Sidney Jones, is going to be technically a rookie. So, I mean, that's the only chance that that's the only chance that the Buccaneers have I think, to pull this one off. But I do think it'll be a close game. But I think the Bucs end up losing this one and go to 0-2, and then everybody's going to say, "Well, let's start looking to the draft."
And they'll all be saying, "Let's draft a quarterback," after Jameis throws 6 touchdowns in the first 2 games. All right, so
he won't be playing, so he can't. So they're going to say, "Oh,
that's
Jameis
true.
hasn't done anything."
I am just off on my game today. I don't know why I forgot that, but you kind of see the joke I was trying to make here. I at least got something right. All right, so week 2 versus the Eagles. I also have us losing, going 0-2. So both of us right now 0-2 to start the season, and it doesn't look great. But an interesting note that I have here is that I think this is the game where we're going to prove ourselves. And kind of like how you brought up, we're going to figure out how good this team actually is. And I had said that we're going to prove ourselves this game. Now, whether that means we're going to prove ourselves in the trenches, whether that means Rojo comes out and breaks for an 80-yard run on the first drive to open up the game, and he proves he's a Rookie of the Year candidate, whether that means the interception or the secondary finishes with 2 interceptions on the day, I don't know what's going to happen, but I've just got a hunch that something's going to happen this game that stands out and kind of gets everybody's attention for just a little bit. Like, we're going to lose this game, but you're going to see a highlight of something that Tampa did on ESPN the next morning. And
yeah, and also this is Vinny Curry and Bo Allen homecoming game. So
exactly. That's why I've got a good feeling about what's going to happen in the trenches. These guys have faced these guys before. They might know how to beat them when it comes to guys like Vinny Curry and Bo Allen getting around that big offensive line that Philly has. But it is going to be a loss. You and I, 0-2 to start the season. Headed into week 3. It's prime time at home. At this point, the Bucs are 0-2, and they're facing the Pittsburgh Steelers. And with a receiving core like Juju Smith-Schuster, you've got Mr. Madden 19 cover boy, Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the league. Julio is not even close. Antonio Brown, you're going to have weapons left and right. This is going to be a close game. This is going to be a primetime game at home that we always see from the Bucs, like Monday Night Football against Atlanta last year. Came down to the wire. And it's going to be a test for this young secondary. And I'm really, really looking forward to that, because we're going to see just how good these guys are. And it's going to be back-to-back weeks of showcasing what parts got better. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of the secondary when it comes to playing Philly the week earlier. Philly has offensive weapons, but when you talk about the Steelers, you're talking about the Killer Bees. You're talking about Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Ben Roethlisberger, and a couple of other weapons they have on offense. This is going to be a test, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm so excited as to say, even with Fitzpatrick, this is our first win of the season. I think the Bucs take it against Pittsburgh on Monday night.
Yeah, just like you said, the Steelers probably have the best, trio of running back, quarterback, wide receiver that you can have. Big Ben is a top probably 10 probably top 10 quarterback. Le'Veon Bell's the best running back in the NFL, and Antonio Brown's the best wide receiver. And then you still have, Juju Smith-Schuster. That offensive line is decent. But the way I think that the Bucs can possibly win is the defense of the Steelers isn't the greatest. It's very up and down. It's inconsistent. Some guys step up at times, but others, it's strange to me because some guys can, they do have some talent on there. They have Joe Hayden still. They have I believe they have Mike Mitchell. I believe they still have Mike Mitchell. They have some talent on that defense, but I just think that if the Buccaneers have any chance, I think that the weapons for the Bucs are going to have to come out and they're going to have to play well. Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Even I'm looking at you guys. This has got to be a game. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game because even though the Buccaneers' defense is better at home, this is probably going to be one of the best offenses they play all year. It's going to be difficult, but I do believe the Buccaneers win this game, and I believe they win the game because I don't know if people notice this, but once or twice a year, the Steelers lose a game that they should win, and I believe that this is going to be one of those games.
They almost lost to the Browns last year.
Yeah, prime example is 2014 Bucs versus Steelers. Nobody picked the Bucs to win. And the
Josh McCown's team.
Mike Glennon started, remember?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Glennon started that game and threw the touchdown to Vincent Jackson, the final second. But my point is that, the Steelers kind of overlooked the Bucs there. They had a big matchup the week after, and they kind of just thought, this team, they got blown out last week by the Falcons. They're down in the dumps. We're at home. We can take care of this. And last year then they did the same thing with the Jaguars, and they did it twice. They underestimated the Jaguars twice. They did it in the regular season. Nobody really picked the Jaguars to win. That was when we thought okay, well, the Jaguars are here. And then they did it in the playoffs. Le'Veon Bell even commented, on Twitter or whatever, saying, he said something like, I guess we're going to see who's better in the AFC Championship game or something, the Steelers or the Patriots or something like that, not just writing off the Jaguars. And
exactly. I'm pretty sure it was someone else. It was after they played the Pats and they had lost, and it was, I don't know if it was Le'Veon Bell. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was a defensive player, and it was basically something along the lines of, we'll see you guys again in the championship game, and then then they lost.
Yeah, I remember during the week, the playoffs started, and the Steelers had gotten a first-round bye because they were the second seed, and Jacksonville had beaten Buffalo, and somebody said something about Pittsburgh. A Jacksonville player said something about Pittsburgh, and Le'Veon Bell quoted it and said, "I can't wait to play New England" or something. So they had already looked past them. And the thing I said, I remembered that the Steelers had a big-time matchup the next week when they faced the Bucs in 2014. Well, this time they have a big-time matchup the next week again. It's versus their bitter rival, the Baltimore Ravens, in Pittsburgh. So, I just think that, I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game. I really do. Fitz is going to have to play good, and Chandler Catanzaro, he's going to have to make his kicks.
Did you see that? You saw that video I sent to the group chat earlier. It was Chandler Catanzaro. He was at a compound, and he pretty much just skipped his way into an 80-yard field goal like it was absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I definitely did. But he's going to have to make his kicks. We know, when the Bucs were on primetime versus the Patriots, Nick Folk didn't make his kicks, and they ended up losing. If he did, they end up winning that game.
If he made one of those kicks, we would have won.
Bucs. Well, one of those kicks, it would have been 1917 final. They lost by 6.
Would have been set up to win is basically what I'm saying. Had he made one, we probably could have made a game-winning instead of having to make a touchdown, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
They ended up losing by 5, and Nick Folk missed a 31-yarder, which should have been made, and a 46-yarder, which should have been made. The other miss he had was like a 55-yarder or so. That's okay if you miss those. You're not gonna, I don't really expect you to hit all of those. But I mean, yeah, it's very important for him to make his kicks, and I think the Bucs squeak out here and go to 1-2.
I think you're over here looking at my note sheet because I've got the exact same thing here. 2 back-to-back losses and then a win against Pittsburgh on Monday night in prime time. I'm excited. I'm excited. 1-2, the Bucs start the season. Travis Bunkin in the live chat, what's going on, man? Yes, you can ask a question. Now let's move ahead here. We've got Week 4. Week 4 against Chicago in Chicago. There's not a whole lot I can say about this one. I kind of stumble over this one every time we do get here. I want to say that this is going to be a win. I'm fairly confident.
There's something I can say about it. I mean, I think it's on everybody's mind. It's going to be the return of Jameis Winston.
Oh yeah, I think Jameis is going to come back and ball out, man. Like I think he's going to put everybody on their ass, and he's going to go out there and have a hell of a game against the Bears in Chicago. But like I said before, I'd like to believe that we win this one and go 2-2. There's not a lot of things going on with that Chicago team that I'm super scared of. They did make some moves in the offseason. They had an okay draft from what I remember, but something that sticks out the most to me, and not even anything done by the franchise, but just a couple of days ago, I want to say it was NFL Live was the show, but there was a host on there that had the Bears going 16-0. His season prediction is that the Bears are going to go 16-0. And that's what has stuck out. Every time I think about this Week 4 game, that's what sticks out to me is the Bears going 16-0. But the Bucs are going to win this game, and we're going 2-2.
Well, I mean, I do agree. I do think the Bucs end up winning this game. However, I do disagree with you when you say that you don't really see much special with this Bears team. I think the Bucs have to look out. I think the Bucs really have to look out, and I don't know. It's going to be strange because if they do beat Pittsburgh, that would be beating a Super Bowl contender on primetime television at home to avoid 0-3. And maybe they overlook the Bears. I don't think they should be overlooking anybody. I think they should learn a lesson.
I think if the Bucs are 1-2 at that point, they don't have any position to be overlooking anybody.
But I'm just saying, the situation I'm talking about. You're beating a good team at prime time at home. You're getting your starting quarterback back for this game against the Bears, and the Bears have some serious talent. They do. They added Allen Robinson in the offseason. They added Trey Burton in the offseason. They added Taylor Gabriel in the offseason, the speedster from Atlanta. They got Mitch Trubisky, who showed some signs of regression towards the end of 2017. They got a defense which it should be okay. It should be okay. They have Jordan Howard as well in that backfield. And they also have an offensive-minded coach who was considered one of the best young offensive minds in the league in Matt Nagy. So this is going to be much closer than Week 2 last year. I'm just going to tell Bucs fans right now.
That was a great game.
This isn't going to be, this isn't going to be one of those games. This is going to be a close game in which the Bucs are going to have to battle, and the Bucs may even be down for some of this game. They may even not have the lead. So I do not think. If I'm Buccaneers fans, I expect to win. I don't expect to win by a lot. So I predict the Bucs will win, move to 2-2. But I mean, don't overlook them. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. So headed into the bye week in Week 5, you and I both have the Bucs going 2-2 to start the first quarter of the season. I'm hoping that comes true. I think a 2-2 start. You get 2 wins at the tail end headed into the bye week. You've got some momentum rolling for you, and then you get the week off to rest up. Now, Travis Munkin back in the live chat, he said, let's say the Bucs did have Jameis in week 1. Does it give the Bucs an advantage over the former Rookie of the Years? Yes. Yes, sir. Of course. We actually did talk about that when we gave our game predictions against New Orleans. So Jameis in that game definitely helps out a lot, but we're going to have to see how Fitz does come week 1. Now, headed out of the bye week, the Bucs have won 2 in a row. Let's say the Bucs have won 2 in a row against Pittsburgh and Chicago. Week 6, you're in Atlanta. You're playing your division rivals. I have on my sheet that the Bucs are going to win. The more that I think about it, the more I think the Bucs are going to win. But I think the Bucs go into Atlanta, and I think they take the W that day in that new fancy stadium.
Well, this is tricky because the Bucs are they're different in Atlanta. Sometimes they can be pretty good. Hence, Week 8 of 2015 and Week 1 of 2016, they beat Atlanta both times. But then they can be very bad. 2014, that Thursday night massacre, and then last year versus the Falcons, which was Week 12, I believe, which was Fitz's last start last year. So, but Fitz, luckily, hopefully nothing happens to Jameis or whatever with that game versus the Bears, or in the preseason, of course. But hopefully we'll be able to play against the Falcons. I do think that gives the Bucs a better chance. I do think this game is going to be closer than it was last year in Atlanta, but I don't see the Bucs winning this game. In Atlanta, it always seems to be giving the Bucs fits as of late. So I just think they're going to have trouble stopping the offense because it seems like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, when they're in Atlanta, are on like a whole new level. And it's that's going to depend on coaching. Is Mike Smith going to put Brent Grimes right on Julio Jones? Now, obviously, does Julio Jones have the advantage? Yes. Brent Grimes is not a shut-down corner. But, Brent Grimes gives you a better chance to stop Jones than, if you put Carlton Davis or you put Vernon Hargraves or MJ Stewart or, anybody on him. That gives you a better chance to stop him. Go ahead.
Something else I kind of wanted to point out, you had brought up Vernon Hargraves, and you had brought up who's going to be covering Julio Jones. At this point in the season, the Bucs have already played Pittsburgh, and the Bucs have already played Philly back-to-back weeks. I think at this point we're going to figure out how Vernon Hargraves is able to adjust this season, because I'll bring it up towards the end of the show as we talk about our breakout players for next year. But Vernon Hargraves does have a little bit of pressure on him this year to make that next step, to be the player that we hoped he would be when we drafted him a couple of years ago. And if he's in a position where he's playing a lot better against the deep ball, you can move him outside of the the slot and the press coverage and things like that. If he can play the deep ball, I'd like to see him go one-on-one with Julio Jones a couple of times that game, if possible.
It's a big year for sure. That's definitely a big thing. How the Bucs corners and safeties play this game is going to determine what happens. But on offense, the Bucs, I think they're going to have their chances. But I just think that the defense is just not going to be able to do enough to stop the Falcons. And I think the Falcons squeak out of there with a pretty close win.
So you don't think? Well, okay, pretty close win. I was just thinking, I think the Bucs are going to do a little bit better of a job game planning for guys like Julio Jones and the receiving weapons that they have.
Yeah,
because,
but,
we saw last year they humiliated us.
Yeah, but what evidence do you have that they're going to game plan differently?
I don't have any evidence at all. I'm just going off of gut instinct. I'm going off of what I hope happens.
Oh, there you go.
Season predictions. So you've got them losing at Atlanta.
Yep, I got them dropping to 2-3.
All right, I have got them winning, going 3-2. I think that defense is going to be able to do just enough to get the job done because they like to surprise me at Atlanta. And as you said, everybody seems to play different in Atlanta, but the Bucs didn't surprise me a whole lot in Atlanta last year. I'm hoping they can do it this year because it's overdue. It's definitely overdue. Moving on to Week 7, the Bucs are going to play the Cleveland Browns at home. The Browns are scary enough to win 3 or 4 games next year, so I'm going to say that the Bucs will win this one.
Yeah, the Bucs are going to win.
It is.
The Browns are going to be. The Browns are better.
I think it's definitely going to be another test for that secondary, though. Let me say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jarvis Landry is overrated, but I think Josh Gordon is really good. So,
you think the juice is overrated? I've seen some moves out of him, man. I like Jarvis Landry. I'd like to say that I'm a fan.
He's being paid like an outside receiver when he's a pure slot receiver. That's
good
my
for
problem.
him, though.
Yeah, but it's just overrated. To me, he has not done enough to earn that contract. To me, he does make some splashy plays, and that's what earned him the contract. He's a good player. He is a good player, but to me, he's just overrated. I think Josh Gordon is the much better wide receiver. And also, this Week 7, it's right around that time where maybe rookie quarterbacks could take the reign. Is Baker Mayfield going to be throwing the football, or is Tyrod Taylor going to be throwing the football? That's a big thing too. I think, I still think the Bucs win either way, but it's scary thinking about Baker Mayfield because I feel like Baker Mayfield, the Bucs obviously won't have much film on him. They played Tyrod Taylor last year with Buffalo. Remember that? And I mean, they haven't played Mayfield, at all. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, I think Taylor starts most of year one. Unless the Browns are just horrible, which I don't think they're going to be horrible. I mean, they're not going to be good. I think the most they're going to win is probably 5 or 6 games. But, I mean, I think that who's throwing the football has a big deal with how the Bucs will game plan. I think there's a big game for Jameis Winston. I think this is going to be a big game for the offense. I think they could possibly. I think they're going to put 30 plus. I mean, I think that they'll win by 10, probably. They won't win by no more than that. I mean, maybe 31-21 or something like that. But, yeah, Cleveland's going to be better, but Tampa's at home. Like I said, defense plays better at home. Cleveland's still not there yet. I think Tampa's the better team, and Tampa's going to go 3-3.
All right, I've got the Bucs winning against Cleveland going 4-2. Back on the road again for Week 8. They're playing Cincinnati, and something I want to note about Cincinnati is that nasty former Buck. You know his name.
Oh yeah, of course.
I've seen some things going around, man. I think the fans in Cincinnati already hate him.
I think so too.
I'm pretty sure he's already found a way to get on their nerves. I've seen some things floating around on Facebook and social media.
I can't wait till Rojo just leaves them right in the dust.
Oh man, we shouldn't say that because knowing our luck. But
yeah, knowing our luck, he'll have 3 sacks that game, and I mean, if he'll
get player of the week.
If he makes a play against Tampa Bay, he's gonna let them know about it.
Oh man, but Week 8, the Bucs play the Bengals, and if you've noticed, I got the Bucs coming into this game at 4-2. They're on a 4-game win streak at this point, all right?
Woohoo!
Something about win streaks is I've noticed that they don't stick around and they kind of go away at the worst time. So I'm just trusting my gut here. I think the Bucs lose on the road in Cincy. I think they drop to 4-3 and that win streak is cut off. I think, honestly, I think what's going to end up happening is our defense isn't going to be able to find a way to stop them. And it sounds weird because, you think about Andy Dalton, you think about A.J. Green. I don't know. I don't know. I think the Bucs find a way to lose this game in Bucs fashion, and they fall 4-3.
This is a pretty easy one for me. I think the Bucs win. I looked at Cincinnati's roster earlier this week. The offense to me, if you limit AJ Green, you're fine. To me, I mean, Joe Mixon, I think, is still a huge question mark. He made some strides last year as a running back. Their offensive line's questionable. Andy Dalton's inconsistent, and I don't think he's ever been that good. John Ross is still. I mean, he played one game or whatever last year, and they don't really have anything else besides AJ Green. I mean, Tyler Eifert is there at tight end, but Eifert is constantly injured. I think the Bucs win this game. It's not going to be a blowout. I mean, but I honestly think, and this may surprise you based on how you have your predictions. The Bengals are going to be a worse team than the Browns.
Really?
I don't think the Bengals are going to be that good.
The Bengals, to me, though, they just find a way to be decent every year. Like, they're not the laughingstock of that division. Well, I mean, maybe. But they're not as big of a flop as the Browns are. And
yeah, but, I mean, to me, this is the weakest roster they've had in a while, and Marvin Lewis is not a good head coach.
They'll sign him to a 6-year extension, though, at the end of the year.
Well, I mean, yeah. They should have gotten rid of him about 3 years ago. Dalton is not good. AJ Green's good, yeah. Tyler Eifert's good, yeah. You stop those two, and they have talent on the defensive side, yeah. They have William Jackson, the corner. They have Geno Atkins. They have Carlos Dunlap. Other than that, it's a whole bunch of meh. I mean, Vontaze Burfict is good. He may be suspended by then.
He won't be playing.
But yeah, besides those guys on their defense, it's a bunch of eh. So I think that it's going to be a close game because of it being in Cincinnati. But I think the Bucs end up winning and improve to 4-3. So me and you have the same record, but we just took different paths to get there.
Now, the thing that makes me think twice, though, is that you had brought up Joe Mixon at that point as a question mark. And I don't know why, but I feel like he's going to have the opportunity to run more than 7 yards down the field this year. I think he's going to take advantage of that, and I think he's going to be a weapon and something we should look out for. And that's what makes me think twice.
I'm counting on the Buccaneers' defensive line getting into a rhythm. I mean, I think by Atlanta Week 6,
they should know what they're doing.
Yeah, they should. If this defensive line still does not look good, they're in trouble. But I think that the defensive line, especially against the run, I think this defensive line is going to be good against the run. I mean, you got Bo Allen, you got Mitch Unrein, Vita Vea, Vinny Curry, Gerald McCoy. I think inside you're not going to get much. So I think the Bucs shut down the run game. I think Grimes sticks AJ Green, and that's all she wrote for the Bengals.
Okay. So I've got the Bucs losing on the road against Cincinnati. You've got them winning. Let's head into Week 9. Division rivals in Carolina. Bucs are playing the Panthers. This is going to be another close game. Division games always are. I have a really good feeling about the offense this game. I think there's going to be a lot of points put up by the offense. I'm hoping for that to happen. But this is going to be something where we see flashes of every single one of those guys down there on that receiving core. And Hump will probably get a touchdown here, but I've got a pretty good feeling, and I'll say the Bucs are going to win against the Panthers and go 5-3 at this point.
I'm going to say they lose. I think being in Carolina, I think it's going to be a challenge. I think Christian McCaffrey brings an element that not many running backs the Bucs play have. I mean, he's a decent runner. He's fast. He's quick, and he's an elite pass-catching running back. I think that could end up killing the Bucs. A lot of screens and stuff.
That's Alvin Kamara, though. 5-yard screen, dump him out. He's gone.
I have him losing to the Saints. As
okay.
well.
All right, I'll meet you there.
I mean, and you got Cam Newton with the read option, who I don't think Cam Newton's very good at throwing the football, but I mean, he's good. He's still a great athlete.
I think he's flopping this year. I think this is going to be a bad year for Cam. Because you know how he fluctuates?
The Panthers always seem to be up and down. I think this is going to be more of a down year, but I think since it's in Carolina, I'm going to give the Panthers the slight edge.
Okay, so what is your record?
And also, the Panthers always seem to have Winston figured out. For some reason, Jameis Winston just doesn't play that well against the Panthers.
That's Luke Kuechly all day, though, man.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, I think their defense is going to be a bit better as well. So, yeah, I think the Bucs lose. 4-4, I got them.
All right, so I'm coming out of Week 9 at 5-3. We're back at home Week 10. They're playing the Redskins. This is another game I think they can win. I think playing the Redskins at home, they're without Kirk Cousins. They have a lot of question marks going on there. I think they've got a pretty general idea of what that offense is going to look like by the time Week 10 rolls around. But you're left without one of your biggest offensive weapons in Kirk Cousins. I think it's going to be a weird year for them. I think that defense is going to eat them up and take the W and go 6-3.
I believe the Bucs are going to win as well. I think that, I mean, they got Alex Smith. Alex Smith's good, you know. In my opinion, a lot of people say Alex Smith's better than Kirk Cousins. I don't think so. I think Kirk Cousins is better than Alex Smith. I mean, not by much, but I think he is. Just like you said, they got
the
a lot
amount of
of
time they've been in the league, you know what I mean? Alex Smith has been around for so long.
Alex Smith has been around for probably 5
He was
more
drafted.
years.
He was drafted with Aaron Rodgers, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was drafted number 1 that year.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, he's been in the league about 8 years longer than, but I mean he's still like only like 32. I think he didn't, like he's still like not like ancient. But I mean he can still play. I mean this is a game where the Bucs can't overlook. I mean just like you said, Washington does have a lot of question marks. They got Darius Geis, a running back who I love. That's going to be probably the toughest challenge. Jordan Reed at tight end, he's injury prone. I wouldn't bet on him being able to play in Tampa. Their receivers, they signed Paul Richardson, who was Seattle's number 3 receiver. Okay, he's going to be like their number 2 receiver. They have Josh Doxson, who has injury problems. Okay, that receiving core is Their defense, I don't think that great, besides like Josh Norman and Ryan Kerrigan. I mean, they did draft Jonathan Allen and De'Aaron Payne and stuff, but I think they might have some trouble stopping the Bucs. I think this is a big game for Deshaun Jackson against his former team. I think Jackson relishes these games. Like I think Jackson's gonna have a good game against the Eagles too. Like he goes to a different level when he plays his former team. I remember, obviously, if you guys don't know, I'm from the Philly area, and obviously Eagles games are shown like locally. And I remember every time the Eagles would play the Redskins, Deshaun Jackson would just kill them. I mean, absolutely kill them. I believe he played 5 games against the Eagles in his time with the Redskins. I believe he scored 3 or 4 touchdowns. Including some that were like big touchdowns, like game like defining and like big moments, not like last second touchdowns, but ones that like took like the momentum out of the Eagles, like big time plays. I think Jackson has one of those this game. This will be the game that I attend this year. I'm also going to be going to the What the Buck tailgate. If you guys don't know what that is, head over to whatthebuck.net. Check them out. What the Buck tailgate. Great food, great people, music, everything. Go to the stadium. You walk to the stadium together. It's a cool atmosphere. Me and Rhett were there last year. I'm going to be there this year. I mean, I don't know about Rhett's status, but it's definitely a fun time. You guys should definitely consider it. But, back to the actual game. I do think the Bucs win this one. It's not going to be a blowout. I think Chandler Catanzaro has to kick well, just like Pat Murray kicked well against the Jets last year when I was there. But I do think the Bucs end up winning and improve to 5-4.
And something you had brought up a little bit earlier is Deshaun Jackson having a big game. This is Week 10. At this point, Jameis is going to be back. He's going to be comfortable. And one of the things that I've been most excited to see the development of this past offseason is that chemistry between Deshaun Jackson and Jameis Winston. And both of those guys have been open and pretty much said that they've been working on it and they've been getting better and they're figuring out how to play with each other. And I think this New York game is, as you brought up, I think this is a game where he just goes off. I think Deshaun Jackson shows up in all the right places this game, and it's going to be a really, really good look in a win against Washington. Now, Week 11. Bucs are in New York. Sorry, it took me a second. I had to look down and find my note. I should have them all in front of me, but I don't. Now, Week 11, the Bucs are on the road once more against New York. And I put a big question mark next to this game because I feel like not a lot has changed in this Giants team that we saw last year. The biggest thing you can point to is Saquon Barkley, obviously the best running back in the draft. We haven't even seen him step foot on the field, and there's already people calling him, one of the top running backs under 25 in the NFL. He hasn't even played a game. He hasn't even...
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But Saquon Barkley, the hype is real, and by this point, we're going to know if he's good or not. We're kind of towards the tail end of the season in Week 11. But if he's good, and he lives up to the hype, I put a question mark to it because I've got the Bucs losing this one. I think the Bucs fall to 6-4. And I don't know if they'll be able to stop the run if Saquon Barkley's that good. So I've got a weird feeling. I think this is kind of 50-50. I just put it down as an L because I want to stay as positive, well, not positive, as realistic as I can. I think this is a winnable game, but I don't know if it's going to happen. So I'll say they lose 6-4.
Yeah, I'm going to say they lose this game too. Yeah, it is weird because the Giants. It's going to be up to the Bucs to stop Saquon Barkley.
And it was a close game last year when they played in Tampa. Let me throw that in there too. We're playing on the road this year.
Yeah, definitely. And the Bucs actually nearly lost that game. With Nick Folks, sort of field goal going almost wide. They have Eli Manning, who he's past his prime, but he can still have a good game here and there. He seems to always have a good game against the Bucs. He never really seems to struggle that much against them.
He had a fucking rushing touchdown against us last year. He fell into the end zone.
Yeah, well, yep. So, they have Odell back. They have Sterling Shepard. They have Saquon, obviously. Their offensive line's improved. They got Nate Solder. On the defensive side, they got Snacks Harrison, Olivier Vernon, Janoris Jenkins. So there's some talent there. This is Jason Pierre-Paul's homecoming game. Let's go, right? JPP, if he can... That's the only way I think the Bucs win. If the Bucs pass rush can just get to Eli...
We're going 7 fingers deep, fellas.
If the Bucs can get out to a 10-0, 14-0 lead, and then the pass rushers just start teeing off on Eli, the Bucs are going to win. Unfortunately, yeah, it's in New York. The temperature is going to start getting a bit colder. It's going to be probably around 40 degrees or so by game time. 35 degrees maybe.
You don't think it'll be time for a snow game?
No, not yet. Not around. Obviously, technically the Giants play in Jersey, and I'm like an hour away from Jersey. Yeah, we normally don't get snow. That's like the second week in November. We normally don't get snow until like December at least.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know nothing about that snow business.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know too much. So yeah, this is going to be a tough game. It's going to be a close game, but I see the Bucs. I see the Bucs losing this one, and I kind of see it as more like a team thing. I don't think Winston's going to play that well. I don't think the defense is going to play as well as they. I think they're going to play decent, but not as well as they need to. And maybe I think Catanzaro maybe misses a kick or two. So I do think that the Buccaneers end up losing this game and go to 5-5 on the year.
All right, so I've got them at 6-4. Both of us have them losing to the Giants. Now headed into Week 12 against the 49ers. This is going to be a game at home, and this is going to be a game that I'm going to try and go to because I'll be honest, I kind of want to witness the legend of Jimmy G in real life. If the 49ers live up to the hype and they're good, I want to see it. If the Bucs beat the 49ers, which I think they will, then I want to see it. And I've got the Bucs winning at home against San Francisco, going 7-4 on the year. Hell of a record at this time of year. But how are you feeling about San Fran?
Yeah, I think the Bucs win. Um, yeah, I do.
I think it's going to be a good game, though.
It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be an interesting game because I mean Kyle Shanahan is a good offensive coach. The only thing I'm going to point out is Kyle Shanahan's offenses when he was in Atlanta kind of struggled against the Bucs. I mean, I know it's a completely different situation in San Francisco, and when Shanahan was the coach, with the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, it was Lovey, and then it was Cutter's first year. And I know the players on both sides are different, but it's just something to kind of point out that, I mean, if he's taking a similar scheme to San Francisco with him, I think the Bucs might have some success. This is going to be another close game. I don't really see. That's one thing. I don't really see. Last year, I predicted the Bucs to blow out the Jets. I don't see them blowing out anybody this year. I think they're all going to be close games. Like I said, I think the farthest game is going to be like the Cleveland game. I think that's going to be probably 10 points and at most 10 points.
I like a 2-possession game against Cleveland.
Yeah, and so, like you said, Jimmy G, they're going to have the thing with a lot of teams where last year they didn't have a lot of film on them. Well, now you're going to have at least 10 games worth of film on Jimmy Garoppolo. So you should be prepared for him. Because I'm sorry, but 10 games, that would mean that he's played 15 games with the Niners, and I believe 17 or 18 total games. He's seen all the defenses that you're going to see in the NFL. He's not going to get any new looks. So you're going to be able to figure out what he does against certain looks. So that's up to Mike Smith. It's going to be a big game for that. They have Jerick McKinnon, who I wanted badly. He's a real threat coming out of the backfield. I think this is going to be another one where, just like with the Panthers, they're going to try to get a lot of screens off. I just think that the Buccaneers are going to be able to do it. The Niners are technically still a rebuilding team. I do think Jameis Winston has success this game. And I think the Bucs rebound and beat the 49ers to go 6-5.
All right, so a good look as we both have the Bucs beating San Francisco at home. Now actually staying home week 13. We're playing Carolina again. And let me go on the record here and say Bucs are playing the Panthers at home. I think they win this one, and I think this is the year where we sweep Carolina again. I think if there's a team that we're going to sweep in the NFC South this year, it's going to be them. As we brought up before, it's going to be kind of a down year. I don't think they're going to be that great this year, and just coming into Tampa further proves that. We always like to find ways to win against them in Tampa, except for last year. But Week 13 against Carolina, I think we win. I think we get the sweep, and I think that offense just goes out there and does what it does best. Same thing as the game before.
Yeah, I do think the Bucs win. Yeah, I have the Bucs splitting with the Panthers, but I do agree with you. If I had to bet on a team in the NFC South that the Bucs would sweep this year, I would pick the Panthers. Like I said, Atlanta to me is a much tougher place to play than Carolina. And New Orleans is a much tougher place to play in Carolina. And New Orleans and Atlanta are better teams than Carolina, in my opinion. So I do have the Bucs winning. I think this might come down to a Chandler Catanzaro field goal. But I think, like you said earlier, always play your division tough. I don't care. To me, my philosophy, you throw the records out of the window when you play your division. Unless a team has a ton of injuries, Cam Newton's not playing, Greg Olsen isn't playing, then on the defensive side, Kuechly isn't playing, those types of injuries, I think this is going to be a very close game. So I do think the Bucs end up winning. I think the Bucs defense plays well this game. I think Chandler Catanzaro, I'm going to say this is going to be a lower scoring game, maybe a 17-14 win or so. So I
agree with you there.
Something along the lines of that. I think Jameis is going to manage the game. He's not going to go off, and he's going to manage the game. I think this is a decent game for Rojo. I think this is the game where he can come out and maybe score two touchdowns, a touchdown, something like that. So Well, we're going to see. I mean, this is going to determine as well. The Panthers lost some guys on the offensive line this offseason. So if they can get after Cam Newton, yeah, the Bucs defense, I believe, is going to shut them down. Their receiving threats aren't that great. So, yeah, I do think the Bucs win. Close game, but Bucs win and improve to, what do I got, 7-5, I believe? Yeah.
Yeah, 7-5. I've got them going 8-4. And something else I want to bring up about this Carolina game
Man,
really quick.
You got them almost being like a second seed in the playoffs.
Shh. Hang on now.
Okay.
Settle down. Don't get too excited.
Oh well, I'm just waiting for the collapse of the Buccaneers. I'm just waiting for like a John Gruden 9-3 type collapse,
Well, I mean, I've got them losing the last 5 games of the season, so I'm kidding on that one. But something else I want to talk about with this Carolina game before we move on here is it's going to be a low-scoring game. I agree with you. I like the 17-14 option. I think it's really going to come down to a game-winning drive by Jameis. I think he's going to manage the game as you had brought up. Don't think he's going to ball out. I like what you had said there. But I think it's going to be a game-winning situation, and it's really going to show that he is hopefully stepped up to that next level. And it's something I'm very excited to see. Whether it's a game-winning touchdown or, again, they set up Chandler Catanzaro for a game-winning field goal. Whatever situation works, I think it's going to be in Jameis's hand, and I'm excited to see that. Moving on to Week 14, both of us have them beating Carolina at home. 8-4 for me, and you've got them at 7-5. But Week 14 against New Orleans at home, I don't think they're going to win. I think we sweep Carolina this year, and I think New Orleans sweeps us this year. I think New Orleans is just going to be the team to beat again. At this point, they're going to have Mark Ingram back. Alvin Kamara is going to be doing his thing. Drew Brees is going to be Drew Brees at this time of the year. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. They're not going to want to lose. And I don't think they are. I really don't. Again, as I brought up before, having Mark Ingram back, you've got all of those weapons back. They're going to be in a groove. They're probably going to be on a win streak of some sort at this point. Top of the division, I think they win.
Yeah, I think the Bucs lose this game as well. For the first time since 2014, actually, the Buccaneers will get swept by the Saints. That's surprising. The Saints seem to be, Drew Brees seems to always play well against the Bucs. Well, 2015 they split, 2016 they split, and 2017 they split. The past 2 wins coming at home, and I think that's where Brees breaks a streak. I think the Buccaneers, maybe they have an injury or 2 by then. I just think that it's going to be a close game, but I think it's sort of going to be like the game last year in Tampa. But I think the Bucs' final drive isn't going to result in a Chris Godwin touchdown.
You think it'll result in the exact opposite, a pick six?
No, not that. But it'll result in a when the Bucs had 4th and 10 or whatever, and Jameis Winston hit Cameron Brate to extend the drive with like a minute left. Yeah, I don't think they can convert that 4th down.
Okay.
So that's how I think it's gonna be like that close. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be something. But yeah, unfortunately, I have them losing to the Saints, going 7-6, and now you got to start looking at that playoff picture for both of us. I mean, we both have records that will it'll keep the Bucs in the playoff hunt. So yeah,
I don't think they'll be the worst team in the NFC South this year.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think so either. But we'll see.
So at this point, we're looking at playoffs. Possibly, I've got the Bucs going 8-5 after they lose to New Orleans. You have them at 7-6. Moving on to Week 15, there's only 3 games left in the season, and the Bucs are back on the road playing the Ravens in Baltimore. I think this is a win. The Bucs pick up where they should have left off, but they pick back up, and they're able to get a win on the road. Gives them momentum headed forward as they've got Dallas the next week. But I think the Bucs going to Baltimore and win 9-5. I think Baltimore is just going to be a very confused team next year. I think there's a lot of things that need to go right for Baltimore next year to actually come out and perform the way that they have in the past, because they've been a team that not a lot of people have been talking about for the past couple of years.
Yeah, Baltimore's a gritty team, a gritty, tough team. It's going to be cold in Baltimore. They still have talent. The Ravens
They could have had Des Bryant, but he wasn't having any of that.
Yeah. Now he's unemployed. So,
do you think Des is going to be on a team by week 1?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think he'll get signed within the next 2-3 weeks or so. I think once training camp starts, there's going to be a few receivers that go down with injuries. There is every year. I think Des is going to find a job somewhere. It's not going to be in Tampa. I can guarantee you that, though.
Oh,
the Bucs. Well, I'm just saying, if Deshaun Jackson and Chris Godwin go down on the first day of training camp, people are going to be asking about it.
I got you.
The Bucs just aren't looking for a player like Des Bryant. His mentality is me first attitude. They're not looking for those guys. The Bucs are going to lose. I think the Bucs are going to lose this game. The Ravens aren't going to be anything special this year, but they're still going to be good enough to where they're going to be good at home. Joe Flacco or Lamar Jackson. I actually think it's a better chance the Bucs win if Joe Flacco plays. But I'm counting on Lamar Jackson playing. I think that Lamar, this is week 15.
Why, do you plan on picking him up in fantasy? Is that what it was?
No, I don't. I know he's not going to start the year, so. I mean, but even if I was, well, maybe I'm just throwing you off, Brett. Maybe I'm just throwing you off.
I remember last year on the stream, I don't remember who it was, but we were like giving away draft picks because there was a delay in the draft and people watching the stream, and I remember we had given away a couple of picks, so we got to make sure not to do that this year if we stream the draft.
So basically, like I said, the Ravens are a tough team. It's going to be cold in Baltimore. There might be some snow, maybe. It's week 15. It's going to be December. I believe that game's December 16th or something. Here, let me just double check right here. I got it. I believe, that game, it's going to be tough. It really is. So I think the Bucs lose. I think it's a close game. I think it's a sloppy game for both sides. But I think the Bucs do end up losing. I think this is one of the games. Yeah, it's Sunday, December 16th. So I mean that's mid-December. That's for us around Pennsylvania.
That's cold.
We start to get a little bit of flurries, and that's definitely going to be a game where it's 32 or below.
So you think that's going to be the nail in the coffin for playoff hopes then? So maybe no playoffs this year?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year.
All right. Well,
I had them making the playoffs last year. I had going 10-6. They fooled me. Not this year. Not this year, guys. Right now, I have them going 7-7?
7-7 at this point, man. We've got 2 games. We've got 2 games left in the season. We'll see how you feel about them, but I've got them going 9-5 into this last 2-game stretch. So we've still got a pretty okay shot at the playoffs if we do everything right. Now let's figure out if we're going to do that. Let's jump into Week 16, playing Dallas in Dallas. You're facing the boys in blue. Jerry has very, very high expectations for that team this year. I'm pretty sure they're going to be under a microscope more than they have been. Dak Prescott's going to need to perform. Ezekiel Elliott's going to need to perform. They're without Des Bryant, so they're going to need to see how that new and improved receiving core does. It's Week 16, so they're going to know if they're in the playoffs or not at this point. But I think the Bucs are able to pull it off in AT&T Stadium because at this point, when the Bucs had played them a couple of seasons ago, they gave them a run for their money. It was a pretty close game. I remember watching that game with a family friend of ours who's actually a really, really big Dallas fan, and he told me a couple of times, he said, dude, I really, he really didn't think the Cowboys were going to be able to pull it off. He was a little bit concerned. I like to believe that this is pretty similar to the Cowboys team we faced just a couple of years ago. Obviously, some things have changed. They're without Dez, but I think the defense is able to save our ass this game, and I think they're going to hold Zeke to not a whole lot of yards, and I think they're going to win in Dallas. So 10-5.
Yeah, I think the Bucs are going to lose this game as well.
Oh my God!
Yeah, well, you'll see. You'll see.
Mm,
It's not the end of the
yeah.
world, guys. No, it's not the end of the world. Um, I think that this is a weird game. I feel like one side. I'm not sure. I can't really tell which side though, because one side of the football, the defense or the offense, one side is going to disappoint, and it's going to lead to this being a loss. Um, I thought long and hard about the Ravens being a win, but I was pretty confident that the Cowboys were going to be a loss. They just, for some reason, they don't win in AT&T Stadium. I don't think since Jerry built that place, I don't think the Bucs have won there. I don't think the Bucs have won there. So I mean that's not the only reason, but I just think either the offense is going to just struggle, sort of like they did in the first half versus Dallas that 2016 year, which ultimately killed them in the end. Or the defense is just going to be a leaking sieve. And I mean, there's going to be injuries at that point. There is on both sides. But I do think the Bucs lose this game. They're going to be eliminated from the playoffs with this. I'm sorry, Bucs fans, but this is going to mathematically eliminate them. They're going to be 7-8, a losing record. Oh boy, Cutter's seat is hot. Mike Smith's seat is hot. I think Jameis Winston's seat's safe though. That's the silver lining. I think by week 16, I think we're going to look at Jameis Winston and be like, wow, he's having a pretty good season. So I do think that Jameis Winston has a good season. I think Jason Light stays either way. So, but it's all going to come down to this last game.
All right. So that last game, I've got the Bucs coming into it at 10-5. You've got them coming in at 7-8 with no playoff chances. They're playing Atlanta at home, and the Bucs are the type of team, we've seen it before, we saw it last year against the Saints. The Bucs like to put on a show at home, and they damn sure like to put on a show the last game of the year. So week 17 against Atlanta, division rivals, I think they lose. I don't think they can get it done. I really don't. Something happens, and I've got
a really good job there. I thought you were gonna clearly say they're gonna win. That was a good job. that was a good job of building that one up.
I don't see them winning. I don't see the Bucs finishing. I had them on pace to go 11-5 and finish towards the top of the division. I just can't see it this year. We've been at that point for so long.
That would be better than you predicted last year. I remember me and you both predicted 10-6 last year.
And here's the thing with 10-6 this year. I've got us going 10-6, and if we get to the playoffs, it's going to be a wild card game, and we're probably not going to make it any farther than that second playoff game. So I don't know. Playoffs, maybe, but I've got us going 10-6.
Okay, all right. Then let me ask you: do they make the playoffs? With 10-6, do the Tampa Bay Buccaneers make the playoffs?
On a wild card game.
Okay.
We've got to see what the situation looks like by week 17 next year. But if they go 10-6 and they make the playoffs, then it's going to be on a wild card game. They're not going to be beating anybody in that division going 10-6.
Okay. I think, if the Bucs get in, they'll probably be a 6 seed. So I would say they play the 3 seed. And who I think the 3 seed would be, I think the Bucs would end up losing in the wild card game. I think the Bucs would end up losing in the wild card game, but I think the Bucs would end their season where they began it. I think they would play the Saints.
Oh yeah?
I think the Saints would be the 3 seed. Here's how I have the seeds.
You think the Saints beat us 3 times?
Yeah.
That'd be a fun game to watch. If the Bucs...
in your situation, yes. Yep, yeah. Although this time in New Orleans, they have Jameis Winston.
I gotta say that if they go 10-6 in that situation, they're the 6th seed. They play the 3 seed in New Orleans. No matter where the game is, I think that's going to be a good game. I would be really hyped up for that. I think that's a winnable game, though.
It is a winnable game too. I mean, you always play your division tough. I know the playoffs are a different animal, but my seeding before, this is really off topic, but before we get to my final prediction for the year, my seeding goes 1 Green Bay. I think Green Bay's going to have a really good year. Rodgers is back. Jimmy Graham's there. They added Jair Alexander and Josh Jackson on the defense, who I love both those guys.
I
think
hope
they're
we
gonna have
say
a good
the
year.
same thing for 2, because I think we have the same thing on our minds. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
2 is LA.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 is going to be the Rams.
Sean McVay is going to continue to do great things, man.
Yeah.
The team has
probably.
only gotten better.
And I think 3 would probably be the Saints. 4 would be the Eagles. But I think the Eagles and Saints are going to have the same record. But I think because the Eagles play the Saints in the regular season, I think the Saints are going to end up beating the Eagles, and that'll give the Saints a tiebreaker. So I think the Eagles and Saints will be they could switch out 3 and 4, and there would be no problem. But
Right.
I do think, and then 5's probably Minnesota, and 6 is probably Atlanta.
Okay.
That's what I'd say. So you get Philly versus Minnesota again, and you get Atlanta versus New Orleans. So yeah. But anyways, speaking of Atlanta, just like you said, the Bucs are playing Atlanta in Tampa. The Bucs nearly beat them last year in Tampa, and this is a huge game for Dirk Cutter. This could be the game that determines whether Dirk Cutter gets fired. I think the Glazers would look at this if they go 7-9. I think the Glazers would look at this as that's back-to-back losing seasons. And there'd be some fault, of course. There has to be either the defense did bad, and that way Mike Smith is gone as well, or the offensive play calling, or the offense did bad, something. Right?
I think if something bad enough happens where Dirk Cutter's going to go, Mike Smith is going to go, and I feel the same way vice versa. I think if one of them goes, they're both going to go.
Well, I mean, I think the Glazers might sit down with Cutter and say, hey, we're going to keep you, but we're only going to keep you if you get rid of Mike Smith. And I think then, I mean, it's going to be tough because Mike Smith and him are friends, but, I mean, to keep your job, I'd do it, So, at 7-8, Light is safe. Jameis Winston is safe. And this game depends on Dirk Cutter, and the Bucs deliver. And the Bucs beat the Falcons to close out the year. They've won their last 2 season finales, both at Tampa, both against division rivals. The first one against the Panthers, the second one against the Saints. Let's complete the South one right here and beat the Falcons at home.
Let's just say for cinematic fashion, this game gets flexed to 4:15, just like Week 17 last year, and they do it, and at the end of the game, they're shooting fireworks off, and all the lights are going crazy, and I like to see that, but they're going to lose.
They're going to win. They're going to win. I'm telling you right now, they're going to win.
All right.
I just think this game is going to be a Jameis Winston freaking party. I think Rojo's going to go off this game too. I think it's going to get Bucs fans really excited for the future.
I like really, an 8-8 finish. I'll take an 8-8 finish over what we had last year.
The only downside to this, like I said, Cutter stays, and I think that means Mike Smith stays. I think the only way that Cutter would stay if they were 7-9 is if the Glazers sit down with Cutter and say, hey, you get rid of Mike Smith, we'll keep you. But if they're 8-8, if they're 8-8, I think they all stay.
Yeah, but let's say they go 8-8. Let's say they go 7-9, but they go 7-9 with a top 10 defense. Is Mike Smith really going to go anywhere?
No. Well, then I think the pressure's more on Cutter. Then maybe Cutter has to get rid of Todd Monken.
Oh.
I mean, I like Todd Monken, but maybe Cutter has to get rid of him. I don't think that'd be the case. I think if it's 7-9 and the Buccaneers have a top 10 defense, I don't know how they would be 7-9 then, because to me, defense is a key to winning football games.
Right.
But I think honestly, I think would be gone if they went 7-9 and a top 10 defense. Jameis Winston. Because I think it would fall on his shoulders.
And the Bucs did have a top 10 offense last year. Despite what anyone could think coming out of those games, Dirk Cutter built a top 10 offense.
Technically, yes, yeah, and I think with Todd Monken helping out Dirk Cutter more this year, I think that's a fantastic move. I think Todd Monken's going to do a great job and really help out the offense.
Oh yeah, I'm really glad that he's going to be making a lot more of the play calling this year. When I saw that headline a couple of months ago that he was promoted to full-time offensive coordinator, I'm happy for the guy, man. Really am. So big ups to everybody on that coaching staff. Let's hope for a great year. As we kind of wrap this up and look back at our predictions, if you guys missed it, I have the Bucs going 10-6 with a big question mark next to the playoff appearance section. I think if they make the playoffs, it's going to be a wild card appearance, and that's it. I don't think at 10-6 they're going to beat out anyone else for a locked-in position. Now, Evan, you have the Bucs going 8-8, no playoffs, but we are going to get a lot of signs that this team is only getting better, I assume, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the young guys are going to step up. Rojo, by then, Vita Vea would be a full-time starter. I think James Winston's going to have a good year. So, yeah, I mean, the future, the Bucs fans are going to be really excited for the future. I mean, the team won 3 more games than they did the year before, going from 5-11 to 8-8 with another off season. You'd still get, a decent draft pick. Maybe you get, like, pick 14, pick 15. Maybe you can get a corner or maybe a tackle or possibly a safety. I think those are the needs. Maybe you sign a big-time corner to replace Grimes. Maybe you sign one in free agency. Who knows? But I do think that they're going to be really excited for the future.
And I'm really excited, man. As we had mentioned at the beginning of the show, training camp just around the corner. Football season is coming back, and damn it, I'm so excited. This is the best time of the year. Everybody's making their plans for which games they're going to go to. If you guys aren't excited about football, you should be, because the countdown is officially on, and we are getting there, my friends. But before we close out the show...
Also, speaking of training camp, I will be at training camp this year. I will be there, thanks to the Pewter Report. I will be there covering the Bucs. A few days, not the whole time, but I will be there, I believe, 3 days. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it, and it's definitely going to be a good experience for me. It's going to be my first time ever going to training camp, so I got a media pass. I'm going to be there trying to give you guys, the best coverage I can. Obviously, follow along with Bucs football, and obviously when we do podcasts on here, we'll definitely talk about what I've seen. So.
And definitely, man, make sure you get some of that footage, too. We'll make sure to use that and upload some videos to the channel as well. Trying to work some things out, but we'll see what happens. Training camp, without a doubt, we're going to be getting some exclusive coverage here on the Cannon Fire podcast. Very exciting things. Travis Munkin said, hey, we should meet up at Bucs, and I will try to get you on the field. Travis Munkin has actually been a pretty big fan of the show for a while, so thanks so much, man. If we ever want to work out the info, we'll give it a shot, boss. Anything is good things when it comes to getting close to the Bucs organization. So if we can figure that out, that would be awesome. But before we wrap up the show, we are going to do a little segment here, and we're going to talk about some breakout players, because somebody had brought up a good question on the Instagram page the other day. I'm loving this new update with all the questions. I didn't think I'd like it at first, but it's so fun. Somebody had brought up a great question the other day, and it was, let's talk about some of the breakout players you see in the 2018 season. Now, my breakout players, we're going to break them down offensive first and then defensive. We'll toss them back and forth. My offensive player is somebody who's pretty much going to pick up right where he left off last year. That's Chris Godwin. This is the most, I wouldn't say confident, but this is the most definite breakout guy I can see on the roster right now is Chris Godwin, doing great things, as we saw towards the tail end of the last year. And, I mean, he went off against New Orleans Week 17. Who's your offensive breakout?
Yeah, it's tough, because I really like Chris Godwin, but I almost feel like he's kind of almost already broken out. Because I feel like
you think he's a presence? When you think breakout, you think someone that people don't see coming.
People that maybe don't see coming, but someone that people aren't talking about as much. To me, a lot of people are talking about Chris Godwin. To me, a lot of people are not talking about this player when they should be. And it's because was actually a bigger deal than Chris Godwin at this time last year. That's O.J. Howard. I mean, people seem to forget about O.J. Howard. He's still here, and he still scored 6 touchdowns. I don't know if they forgot about him because he went down with injury week 15 versus Atlanta that ended the season early. This man is still here. He's a beast. He's still going to be a beast.
Oh, yeah.
And I just that O.J. Howard is going to be, I think this is his year. I think Cameron Brate's going to do great. Brate is great, right? Make America great again. But I think
I'm going to
O.J.
get
Howard,
shirts that say that. Make America great again. That's dope. I like that.
O.J. Howard is going to go to the next level. And, I'm going to go with O.J. Howard.
Okay. O.J. Howard. I like him, man. He is a beast, as you brought up. He's a very exciting guy to watch. I think something that I wouldn't say opened my eyes because, ever since the pick made at number 19, we knew who he was. But that Giants game and that one drag wheel route where he just had the streak and he was open by himself all the way down the field and he walked it into the end zone. I think that's one of my favorite plays from last year, and hoping to see some more magic like that from O.J. Howard. I'm pretty sure they scored on that same play later in the year, didn't they? Was it against Atlanta?
No, it was against Buffalo. Exact same thing, O.J. Howard.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because that was the game. That was the game he kind of bobbled it in.
Well, yeah, no, he didn't. He bobbled.
Oh, he
it
did
on
that
purpose.
celebration where he bobbled it on his hands.
And then I remember that was the game he had 2 receiving touchdowns. I remember that.
Yeah. O.J. Howard, like you said, 6 touchdowns last year. He's a beast. I like to agree with you there, but I like Chris Godwin too, man. On the defensive side of the ball, my guy is somebody I brought up a little bit earlier in the show. I don't know if breakout is the term to use, but I think he's going to be someone we should be paying attention to this year, and that is Vernon Hargreaves III. Now, everybody is probably saying, like, why the hell would you say VH3? Guy's a bust. Things like that, but I think what people have to realize, and something that I've kind of noticed over the years, is there's something about shenanigans that motivate a player to play the way that they should. And when I talk about shenanigans, I talk about that video that surfaced a couple of months ago of VH3 smoking the blunt. Now,
which didn't amount to anything, which I actually thought it would have, but apparently it was discovered that I guess it wasn't a blunt, I guess. I don't know. Or it wasn't VH3. We're really not sure.
But it was still something that shined him in a negative light. Nothing may have come from it, but it was still a very bad look from a guy who already didn't have the greatest look in the world heading into that offseason. But I think the pressure is going to be on him to take that next step. You look at VH3 last year and you really break down the film. Press coverage, man coverage, he's not a bad player at all. He can defend the short pass and be where he needs to be as long as it's within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. But he has always been terrified of being beat deep. And it's something we repeatedly talked about, is how he cannot defend the deep ball. And once you play him in space, he really can't follow too well. I think something's going to click this year. I think he's going to get it, and I think he's going to ball out and finish with a couple of picks on the year. So VH3 is my defensive breakout player.
Hey, I mean, I could see it. The only problem I see with that is there's MJ Stewart, who apparently has impressed. There is Carlton Davis, who was impressed. Then you got Brent Grimes. So, I mean, that's 3. That is 3.
I think VH3 is in a position to get a starting spot, though. I got enough faith in him there.
I think it's going to be that's one thing I'm going to be paying close attention to in training camp. The nickel cornerback, because MJ Stewart to start the year was not like that highly like regarded as a nickel corner. When they put him there at minicamp, now it's minicamp, you don't have pads on, of course, but when they put him there, he was awesome. And the thing was, though, Hargraves was as well. So we will see. It's gonna be interesting to see. I hope Vernon has a good year. I really do, for his sake and for the Bucs' sake. I mean, that could go down as Jason Light's worst draft.
Right. And something you had brought up.
20.
Something you had brought up about paying attention at training camp is they've actually got a new setup for training camp this year, and I'm pretty sure it's to accommodate for more people because I don't think they anticipated 5,000 people showing up on the public day last year, and you can kind of owe that to the stick carriers. They're doing good things over there, but a new setup they have this year I had read at training camp is they're going to allow you to kind of walk around the field. They're going to open up that area so you can kind of go over to a certain section, and if you want to watch a certain set of positions run their drills, you can do that. And I think that'll give you a really cool opportunity to take a look at how those guys are doing the cornerback position.
Yeah, that is true. Yep, that is true. All right, so my defensive player, I was actually kind of hoping that you didn't take him. And you didn't. It wasn't Vern Hargrave.
I think I know who it is. Is it the same guy that you said is going to be closest to 10 sacks?
Maybe. He's from the same draft class. And yeah, it is. I think Noah Spence is the guy to watch out for. He bulked up this offseason. I think he's stronger now, so I think the injury concerns may go away. There still are concerns because this is 2 straight seasons now, his first 2 years being injured. But reminder to you that he had a strip sack in that Bears game, and that was like one of his only games of the year. Okay, just letting you know that
that was season opener.
Yeah, one of the only games of the year that he played in a strip sack. This kid's gonna be good. He bulked up even more. He can shed blocks. He's still quick enough to where he can beat him with the speed. He can now beat him with a little bit of power. I mean, he still relies on the speed more than his power for sure. He's not a bull rusher. He's definitely a speed rusher. But I just think he's not going to get 10 sacks. No Bucs. I'm sorry to break it to you. The streak's going to go on because no Bucs defensive end or defensive tackle is going to get 10 sacks. Okay. But I think Noah Spence is going to get 8.5 maybe. If he plays a full season, I think he's going to get pretty high up there. I think him and Jason Pierre-Paul are going to be the 2 Bucs defensive ends with at least 7 sacks. I think Jason Pierre-Paul gets around 7.5 or so. I think Gerald McCoy gets around 6. I think at this stage of McCoy's career, I think 6 is probably the most McCoy's going to get. Because playing defensive tackle, you're not set up to get that many sacks anyway. So when he was getting like 9 sacks a year, that's why it was so impressive.
That's the thing though, is that he was getting 9 sacks a year, and he's never really had that much help throughout his career. Here's a bold prediction. I think Gerald McCoy is going to have over 8 sacks this year because they got him some help. I think he's going to do what he has to do and have his. I think he's going to have a career year this year.
I hope so.
Let's hype him up. Let's get behind him.
Hey, I feel like people are almost forgetting about McCoy too, and it's shocking to me. I get it. McCoy's been here. He's been here for 8-9 years. Okay, you know who he is. Everybody likes a flashy new player. I understand everybody wants to. Everybody wants to see JPP. Everybody wants to see Vita Vea. Everybody wants to see Vinny Curry. It's more about who you have. And, I was actually watching this thing about basketball. It was a basketball documentary about this one player. And he was right, and it's with all sports. He said, this time of year, like free agency and like the draft, he said a lot of fans are more worried about who your team could get than who your team already has. And I think that's so true. A lot of fans are just forgetting about Gerald McCoy. They're almost like forgetting about O.J. Howard. Kind of because of Chris Godwin. Obviously they don't play the same position, but Chris Godwin, remember that O.J. Howard didn't play in that Week 17 game. Chris Godwin did and went off. So that's the last memory they have of the Bucs receiving corps, Chris Godwin catching the game-winning touchdown pass. I guarantee you that has something to do with all the hype around Chris Godwin.
Right.
I'm also not saying that he's going to flop. I think Chris Godwin's going to have a great year as well. I think his best years are still way ahead of him. I think he's going to be the number 2 receiver on this team for the next 6+ years. But people are forgetting about Gerald. They really are. You know,
The real McCoy.
yeah, exactly. I mean, if he plays like he did, to me, 2013 was his best year. If he plays, I believe he had 9.5 sacks that year. If he plays anywhere close to 2013, and JPP plays good, and Noah Spence plays how I want him to, how I expect him to, if he stays healthy, Vinny Curry, if he helps out on the run, he can get a few sacks here and there. Bo Allen, a run stuffer, Vita Vea, a run stuffer. You're looking at a top 10 defensive line. Yeah, I truly believe that. So yeah, I think that's a big thing, but. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Noah Spence, and yeah, but you definitely a bold prediction to say Gerald McCoy have over 8 sacks. I mean, he hasn't done it in about 2-3 years or so, but
I got a good feeling.
Just like you said, with the help, I mean, helps. It just does.
And I'm really excited about it, man, and you guys should be excited too. We've got training camp coming up. Let's get excited about the Bucs 2018 season, and ladies and gentlemen. I mean, there it is. That's the bread and butter. That is the 2018 season predictions show. We broke everything down, caught you up on what you missed, broke down the season, and talked about who we think is going to break out this year. You've got them going 8-8. So, I think it's time to get excited. It's time to be realistic, but it's time to get excited. Let's get invested into this football team because everybody who watches this show, and you and I both know that this is the football team that we love to watch every single year. And let's get excited for some Bucs football, man. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. We've got our boy HD Pizjugs, Travis Munkin, and everyone else in the live chat throughout the show. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. Make sure you find us on iTunes, podcast, at Cannon Fire Podcast, and leave a 5-star review. Costs you nothing and means the world to us. Follow the show on Instagram at Cannon Fire Podcast, and you can find Evan on Instagram at Bucs Football, the #1 Bucs page on Instagram. Also, check out our partners at pewterreport.com, the #1 source in Bucs news. Great guys over there in Scott Reynolds, Mark Cook, and Trevor Sycamore, who we have had on the show multiple times. Good things going on over there. And last but not least, it is summertime, it is hot outside, so make sure you check out our sponsors at Cool Towel. You can find them online at cooltowel.com. And I gotta say, I've never really said it in the ads, these things work and they kick ass, man. This Florida heat, July, August, September, these opening games, they're gonna suck. And let me tell you that working and driving home every single day, I don't have AC in my Jeep. And so one day I had a Cool Towel with me and I actually whipped it out, threw it on my neck. A 35-40 minute drive home with traffic, this thing kept me cool the entire time. I put it back in the bag, put it on the next morning, and it was still cold. You don't even have to put it in the fridge or anything like that. You can put it in the bag and reuse it. These things are awesome. So make sure you check them out, cooltowel.com, the official partners and sponsors of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. Remember, let's get excited about the upcoming season. We'll see you guys next time. The Eagles suck, and the Bucs don't.